I like John Wick Chapter 3 except for the ending. It's just bad, illogical writing. I'll address the ending at the end portion of the video in case anyone doesn't want to hear about it in any terms at all. John Wick is a man marked for death by the High Table, as he is now excommunicado following the events of the second film. He was given an hour head start and he uses it to gather some special possessions to help him escape his fate. Once time is up, madness ensues. The action sequences, apart from the ending, do not disappoint. They're still gutsy and ballistic. I will say that going through headshot after headshot gets a little tiresome to watch. It's efficient, but this is why the series alternates between hand-to-hand or close-range weapon combat with gun battles. It's like an overstimulation of violence, but you definitely get your money's worth with all the action scenes. But for some reason, I thought that this film fell a little flat. It might have been the lack of lighting variation or just repetitive moves, but I get why it felt repetitive, because if there's, let's say, a stronghold, then there should be a lot of armed guards. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but I can find myself feeling bored due to a lack of action variation after a while within a sequence. Regardless, there's still intense situations with a lot of tension because the stakes are so high with all of that deadly violence. Keanu Reeves is excellent as always, but we barely see much of an evolution of his character in this film. It makes sense though, since the stakes are life or death. He has to show little emotion to become a proficient hitman. Mostly it's him being quietly pissed off, which I think separates him from other action icons. He plays it cool rather than showing much bravado. Halle Berry was really good. I was like, where have you been these past years? I really hope her role as a badass woman who has a particular soft spot gets a revitalization in her career. I was actually the most scared by her in a good way because I thought her reluctance was the most palpable. This is not to knock Angelica Houston because I blame the writing and the setup to her character's part. I thought Halle Berry balanced that reluctance and willingness to help John Wick well, whereas Houston's wasn't as nuanced. It just didn't feel as organic from Houston's character versus Berry's character. The cameos and guest stars were well utilized just like in previous films. I am not going to mention all of them, but hardly anyone sticks out like a sore thumb. Even the guy from Iron Chef America isn't bad. Mark Dacascos. Considering that he has a martial arts background, this makes sense. At some point, I wasn't sure if I found it believable that these people would help John Wick. Because he was excommunicated, he's not allowed to get help from anyone in the underworld. The characters are dealing with this code and their relationship with Wick. To me, it is odd when people risk their life for someone who clearly broke the rules and did this to avenge a dog in essence. That's even pointed out during the film that John Wick did all of this for a dog. If the point was to say, fight the power, then okay, that's acceptable. I'll take that, but it's not entirely explicit except at a certain part. In general, this is the weakest film of the series from a writing perspective. The action and the staging of the scenes are top-notch as is expected. The newcomers and returning players to this third installment fit in very well. John Wick Chapter 3 is a highly entertaining 2-hour-plus venture. I'll talk about the ending in vague terms, but I found it odd for his opponents to just admire him instead of fighting to kill. They're paralyzed by some unforeseen force, and it's not good writing. There has to be a physical reason as to why they don't just finish Wick off. It makes no sense from a mental standpoint. I mean, yeah, John Wick is practically unkillable, but the plot armor shouldn't be that thick and dense. I guess this is the only way to show vulnerability in his character, but we already get that when he does all this violence and killing to protect his dog or to remember his wife. I just can't buy assassins fanboying over him and being unable to finish the job.